And here we are again. As you know, IFA is also about home appliances. And I'm so happy to have some experts over here. We have Lovisa and Christopher from AEG. Well, thank you so much for joining us over here in the Tech Lounge. You know, trust me, the AC works.
Okay,
right?
cool.
Even though that, I know, you're getting a different impression.
Yeah. So we feel comfortable here. It's great.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I like that. You know what? IFA in general, when I have the chance to get out of this room, right, and I can just wander the halls a little bit, it's just amazing to see how wide this portfolio of different products is over here. And you are coming from a very, very, I would say, classic industry, classic IFA industry that's been here for decades, but that's also really changing right now.
There is a transformation ongoing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, we don't want to talk about products anymore.
You're not doing products anymore.
No, or we don't want to talk about them.
So what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Let me know. So
Other things. No, I think, actually when I started working at the company, people say, oh, you shouldn't try to engage around, for example, washing machines. It's not interesting. But actually, it is very interesting if you look into the wider context of what we're doing. And maybe just if you back a step, as a company, we work with a very strong purpose to make a positive difference in people's lives, so every day, and also for our planet. And then if you look into the categories where we are working, so within the food industry, I mean, yes, we do have some ovens actually. But if you look more into the food industry and see us as a player in that context, I think we as a company can do a lot here. So, I mean, for example, you have obesity is increasing a lot. And also in terms of the food waste. I mean, we throw away like a third of the food we buy, we throw away. And we have some really cool innovations that can actually change that. Because actually, right storage could decrease that by 61%. And then also if you look into the fashion industry or the clothing industry, so it's no longer about the washing machine or the dryer, but if you look into the fashion industry and a little bit of what is happening there, the textile consumption has doubled since year 2000, and we consume clothes in a very high pace. And I think, I mean, sustainable fashion has been a topic for a while, but people then think about the production, sustainable cotton, etc. But actually, aftercare accounts for more than half of the impact coming from one piece of garment. So this is something that we really want to change, because people don't know that. So it's a lot about, I mean, education on how to care for clothes in a better way, but also, of course, with the solutions that we have to actually do that. So not focusing on the products, but more the bigger context.
So we're basically somehow on the verge where big data and artificial intelligence is becoming a huge part of your business?
It's a huge part, but it's very important to understand that it has to always be relevant for the consumer at the end of the day. When we use technology, we really have to make it relevant. And big data is only a way to make it more relevant for the consumer in the end. The more we know about the behaviors, the more we know about the consumers themselves, the more we can really come with relevant solutions for them. And I think coming back to what you said, I mean, we're talking about a bigger purpose. We're talking about making an impact on the planet, on the world, and that's actually extremely motivating for our employees also, I must say. It's really about, you know, in the end, helping the consumers to take care of their loved ones, making a positive difference for the planet, and but doing this in a relevant way for them in their own style. So when we talk about technology, it's not only about just, you know, shooting 10,000 different types of technology. It's more about really understanding the consumer insights. It's really understanding all the data we have on consumers, on their behaviors, on the trends, and then coming with something which is extremely relevant, and that will make the difference.
Isn't it somehow a kind of evolutionary process you're going through right now? Because when we look back like 100 years or so, right, to have the chance to have the first oven or the first washing machine, that was an evolutionary step for a household. That made things much easier for me. And now you're just making somehow the next
but
process,
I think the key
next process.
You're right. I think we have to talk about transformation, and we went from talking about products, and now we're talking about experiences. The word experience is really resonating quite a lot in our company right now. So when we basically develop a new innovation, we should not think about the white box. We should really think about the experience we will create. And therefore, in order to do this, we have lots of tools. Like, for example, we have experience labs, so where we nowadays really test the product with consumers, and we understand a long time in advance if the experience that will be generated around the product, with the accessories, the consumables, with the services, with the connectivity, any type of mobile application, how will that work out for the consumer? And you know what? The funny thing is that we found really surprising facts. Sometimes, you test an induction hub and, you think that it's quite clear, but then the consumer, it could be anybody, just starts searching for how does it work? It's not so intuitive.
For our engineers, it's super clear, but not for the consumers.
No,
so that means that we actually have to take a lot of products back to actually redo and redo.
Absolutely.
And that's so one, for example, the Comfort Lift, which is a new dishwasher that we are launching this year, where you have the lower basket. It's actually coming up to you. That one, I think we postponed with a year because we weren't really satisfied. It wasn't perfect, the whole experience. But also coming back to what you said, when, for example, when the washing machine first entered the home, we know also from research that I think it's like 80% of consumers, how they gained their, say, laundry habits. It's from their parents. And then you can imagine they gained it from the parents before them. So our laundry habits are super outdated. And I mean, do you know how much has happened since your grandmother then did the laundry? So I think that is also in terms of fabric care, something that we are working a lot with in terms of, for example, dry cleaning. You think you still have a lot of garments that are stitched with the dry clean only, because many designers, that's what you just put in. But then, and people don't dare to. I mean, you give it to the dry cleaner, of course, because it says in the care label. So I think that's a big challenge also to kind of convey. We know we are so much in the forefront, but consumers are still so way back in terms of what you can actually do.
I think if I can add to that, I think it's a little bit going back to the basics, if I can say, really, because thinking about the experience is really stepping back, putting ourselves in the shoes of the consumers and thinking, okay, what is really a low effort experience for our consumers? How do we make it easy for them? And their connectivity, there is a paradox, because connectivity and the IoT we kind of think this is going to be, a breakthrough innovation, and we will leap into a different dimension. Of course, hopefully we do this, but I think it's first of all helping on very basic things. If we think about the new app we have on the washing machine, I mean, it's first and foremost, apart from the remote control, which is one thing, but a care advisor. We offer a care advisor, which means that the consumers that are completely lost among all the labels, that are completely lost how to treat their treatment, they can now have, let's say, much more support, very intuitive support in how to take care of their clothes and make them last longer.
So you basically just tick in, like the care labels, you see the fabrics that the garment is being made of, and the washing machine chooses a cycle for you. Because it's quite interesting. Also research that we just did, we saw that I think it's a majority of people, they actually look into the care labels, but then they say, I don't get them. So it's quite interesting. You look there for advice, but you don't get them really. So I think with this app, it's a very good way to start to take that guesswork out. And also, for example, consumers, we have around maybe 20 cycles in a washing machine. So there are so many cycles, and all those cycles, they have been developed for specific fabric. So for silk, for example, this is how the cradle should move. But for wool, the spin speed should be super fast, so that it lies flat to the which is not really intuitive. You would think wool should be super slow.
We have reached a point where the machines are so advanced
but the thing is,
if you don't help the consumers to use them in the right way, then we lose them on the experience. You see my point? So the products could be extremely good, but then the experience could be still not so good.
No, because they use two cycles
in the
on
end,
average. And then we equip them with 20, but they just get lost. And I think that's where, for example, the app can really help people to kind of understand and take the guesswork out.
Isn't this a very, very important step forward, where those devices that's been around for so many years and are a necessity in our ordinary life, are now becoming something where I also create as a consumer more awareness of what the device itself is actually doing, what it does for me,
Absolutely.
and how it does it for me. Because you also mentioned you're moving forward into a more eco-friendly and more awareness for the global issues that we have. Is this something that got raised by your customers over the last years more and more? Is there more awareness?
There is much more. There is much more awareness, but it's not coming so much from our industry. I would say it's coming from the outside, because our categories, let's say, many of them are quite low involvement. Talk about a washing machine or dishwasher. The consumers are not so involved into the process, and I think what we tend to forget is that in the meantime, while many people were not thinking so much, the category and the industry has improved a lot the performance of these machines. We have really reduced by, 80-90% the amount of energy we consume, the amount of water, and now people have, let's say, they did not follow the pace. So I think that's why connectivity can help us to reconnect the people with their devices, make them a bit more involved, but not to force them into a chore, but more to make it easy for them, make it intuitive for them. I think that's the key, and then they can really make then a step for the planet, a step for the environment, if they want to, and they can take care of their loved ones. They can host fantastic dinners suddenly.
It's quite interesting. I love to talk to designers and industrial designers. I also had the chief designer of Huawei this morning over here. And I'm always asking them the same last question. If you would sit somewhere in a restaurant, and on the next table there would be a customer that's using your product, what would you like to hear from this customer? A lot of designers are thinking very complicated then, right? And they're talking for like 20 minutes or so. The most amazing statement that I got was from Marco, I can't remember. He was from Finland, so it was quite complicated to pronounce his family name. He was the head of design for Nokia for many years. And he was just thinking about this, and I think this is a great narrative for what you guys are doing. He was just thinking about it, and he said, it fits into my life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I thought that was so smart and so deep, because this is exactly what you're doing right now. When I see how my home evolves and evolved over the last years, how it's getting smarter and how it actually does the only thing that money can't buy, but somehow it can. It can buy you time.
This is thanks to digitization. If you think about it, this is thanks to all the new digital tools we have. And Electrolux, like many companies, we are really now trying to accelerate like hell, invest into all these tools to really understand better the consumers. Not only by doing once in a while research like in the past, but really being constantly connected to our consumers. And then we have a lot more feedback. A lot more feedback.
In terms of, you're talking about the experiences, I think actually one of the launches we have this year is a completely new kitchen range. It's the world's first responsive kitchen. So what it does?
Tell us about the
responsiveness. No, so it's a range of appliances that we really like. It talks your language. So for example, it's a hood that is connected to the hob, so you don't think about the hood. You can focus on the cooking. Hands-free cooking.
It should be like this.
Exactly. And smart. For example, the oven. So instead of you having to think, okay, what setting is it? A fan? Is it what kind of heat? How many degrees? You just tell the oven, I want it medium rare, and we have a probe, and it will tell you when it's medium rare.
Absolutely.
So appliances like that,
and like the dishwasher that comes to you basically, with the lower basket that comes to you. That's also responsiveness. I mean, that's fantastic.
And also taking out appliances. We're actually fighting a bit with ourselves. So we also have like a water tab where you can then have boiling water straight from the tap, so you can. In the end, maybe we cut out more of our own appliances.
But this is consumer facing. This is really thinking really truly about the consumer. You offer options to the consumers.
It's becoming ergonomical. And especially if you think about this, and you're standing in the kitchen and you're cooking for, for 10 guests or so, and you're standing in the kitchen for hours and hours and hours.
That's not how it should be.
I think this is how home appliances need to work. They need to be user-centric.
Absolutely.
Not process-centric.
Exactly, and
They need to work on this
feature-centric.
anyways, yeah? The features need to work, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
first of all, it starts with
The-
the user experience.
Absolutely. Then, of course, I mean, we discussed a lot about the experience, going back to the basics, creating a low-effort experience. I think that's key. But then, still, we have a mission to delight the consumers, so exceed their expectations. You know, when you basically move them from a vitroceramic hob to an induction hob, suddenly their life is, you know, they're really thinking, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I think the ultimate step, what we're driving to, is inspiring them. And if you think about the taste, great taste, working with chefs, we can really stretch the capabilities of the consumers, and we can make them feel like real chefs at home, because suddenly we teach them all the beauties about cooking with steam. We can teach them all the beauties about, you know, using sous vide techniques, using blast chiller. I mean, this is also then for us a little bit in the mission. If you think about it, is the ultimate goal to inspire them and to give them this as a.
Tell you
present.
one thing, I already feel like a real chef when I'm just making a sandwich. Oh my God,
Oh, yeah.
mission accomplished.
Maybe you should come to our booth later and we'll show you.
Don't blast chill it. For sure.
No, but I think
It is just so convenient for me in Taiwan. Right?
you have to come to our booth and
I
we'll
need
teach
to,
you
yeah.
something about
Absolutely.
cooking.
We also
Or
sell
actually-
microwaves. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
There you go. Oh, you remember that. That was just too funny. The last time we've met, I was telling Christopher from my experience of my first apartment in Taipei. So I went to the 7-Eleven downstairs at my first apartment. I saw this amazing microwave above the kitchen sink. So I went downstairs, got myself an instant noodle soup. Wanted to put it into the microwave, and I just couldn't read the buttons. I had no idea. So I called my landlord. I said, Cheryl, how can I use this microwave? She was like, which microwave? Oh, the microwave above the kitchen sink. That's not a microwave. It's a dish dryer.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I've never ever seen a dish dryer in my life. Who's making dish
Absolutely.
dryers in this world, right?
Yeah, it's a different. Well, but that's the global challenge, of course, to try again. When we come back to knowing the consumers are different
Exactly.
in different countries, different regions
yeah,
of the
and
world.
also thinking about it, because it's like on average every 7th year that a
Yeah.
consumer buy a new appliance. So imagine what has happened since you were there last time. So of course
Exactly.
you have a lot to catch up on.
I've had a hard time to really know what to do with my washing machine. To the point where I gave it up and went to a laundromat because they also had these huge industrial dryers next to it, and it was kind of nice because they also had a nice sushi restaurant right next to this laundromat shop, so I could always have some sushi while it was taking care of my laundry. But I just couldn't read it whatsoever. Right? It's also to what kind of an impact these devices have and how limited you are when you want to sell it into a different region and different part of this world, and you can't do it anymore.
I'm glad you talk about the word devices, because I mean, then you think about going outside of only our products and talking about all devices in a home.
That's what
and
it is.
And I think this is really, we talked about it last year, but I
Yeah.
think it's important to talk about it again. I mean, when we talk about IoT, for us, for Electrolux, we really want to go towards an open communication standard between all appliances.
Yeah.
This is the way we can together, not only Electrolux, but together with the other companies and brands, we can create a great experience for the consumer. This is what we care about.
Absolutely. You know, the most personal device that we have is our phone.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know,
And we have
the
it all the
next
time.
most personal device, which is also the second most expensive one, is our car. And the most expensive one is our home. And it's also interesting to see that those are those 3 platforms
Coming
that
together.
we're using to personalize and customize them the most.
Yeah.
They're
right?
merging. I mean, they're
And I
merging.
think-
Exactly, and they are all coming together right now. Right?
And I think also in terms of, I mean, with the open sources and a connected home, but also in terms of partnerships in general. And that is something that we are working a lot with as well, because I think maybe our industry, we used to kind of work a little bit in silos. So again, if we talk about the clothing industry as an example, we had, you know, the washing machine producer on one end, and then you have the clothing producer on one end,
and the detergent
and the detergent
manufacturers,
manufacturer on one end, which is like, and we don't talk the same language. So the care labels that you see in the clothes, for example, they are not the same as you see on the washing machine. And you know, what detergent to use when and where. So we work a lot with partners from other industries. So, I mean, for example, one of the washing machines that we have has EcoMix technology, but that is something that we have developed together with Procter & Gamble, which is the world's leading detergent manufacturer. So it pre-mixes the detergent outside of the washing machine, meaning that we can then cut down on the cycle time. We can wash in lower temperatures. So innovations like that, so both in terms of connectivity, but of course also pure innovations
and
where we can
saving
work.
lots of energy,
absolutely.
saving chemicals with the detergent that
but
gets
not
into
doing it alone. I think that's a little bit the key. That has changed also for us. As in the last 5-6 years, we are really much more into open innovation.
Huge trend in the overall industry, even in the tech industry. You know, I had one Microsoft manager in here today, and I told him, you know, I remember being at your developers conference when they got their new CEO like 2 years ago. So like 10 years ago, if someone would have talked about open source and Linux or whatever, they would have just dragged him down from the stage and said, you go, right? And now they're open, they open themselves up.
Embrace
we want to work together with you guys. We want to work together with you SAP. We want to work together with you Salesforce. We're competitors.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just engage with them and, like you said, embrace them because the world is merging together, and those fundamentally different markets and industries out of a sudden have all these bridges in between them, which makes it so exciting.
It's quite interesting. Earlier this year, we actually launched a documentary about the how to take taste to the next level. And I was just thinking, when you talked about different perspectives, so then we met with people, pioneers from around the world, who have their perspective on how to like
even
take taste to the, so like scientists, professors in psychology, food waste activists. So then it's a documentary series with all those perspectives on how to kind of create the perfect ultimate taste experience from all those different various perspectives, and it's so exciting, like coming from all of those angles, exactly. And now we are talking to them in terms of, you know, R&D. How can a professor in psychology help us to innovate? You know,
but that's changing because, I mean, of course, when you talk to engineers, historically they're in their own world, but then suddenly when you cut all the barriers and you expose these people to all these stakeholders out there, then suddenly the innovation is exponential. So that's really fantastic.
It's great. And also giving the innovations a context. I think I remember again when starting in our company, we talked about this this EcoMix technology, and it's patented good. But what does it do? And this is again like seeing the bigger context and like this can help out to change the fashion industry.
You know what we're doing now. We're you know, because we have of course 12 million contacts every year in Europe with the consumers in the aftermarket, so in the consumer service phase. And what we do is we take our engineers, we take on our employees, and we invite them to join one of these service technicians' visit to really experience what has happened. How does the consumer feel about our products? I think that's so rich because then suddenly you go much in the development phase. You start thinking much more again about the experience. That's a key.
And from different angles.
Absolutely.
So the hackathons, for example, where we had like programmers, designers, chefs, you know, coming together, trying to come up with new solutions.
I remember doing my first hackathons for the car industry, and they were like, "What's going on now?"
What are you doing here?
But you have to let go.
Exactly.
That's really the point, because we did the hackathon in May there.
Need to be open-minded.
Just be open-minded, let go, trust a little bit that people will come with great insights, great innovation.
It really helps you to get a different perspective outside of your bubble.
Yes.
You're working in a company, you have the same people, right, and you have your roadmap, and so therefore this is just so important. Lovisa, Christopher, I know that we could talk probably for the next 3 hours. I think even you guys alone could do that, right? So that was, no offense, that was a compliment, trust me, because I'm doing this like for 8 hours a day, right? So it was a real pleasure to have you over here. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Wir machen jetzt eine kleine Pause. Ich glaube, wir sind in der Kamera. Wir machen jetzt eine kleine Pause. Dann haben wir den Michael Wilmes von Amazon da, und der ist unter anderem für die Kindle-Produkte zuständig. Und bis dahin gucken wir uns ein paar Videos an. Bis gleich, danke.
Okay, bye.